400 Thunder Top Fuel began at the East Coast Nationals. And what a race it is, a 468 for Corey McLenithan takes home the trophy. When the series took flight to Australia's west, the fastest cars on the planet put on a spectacular show as a homegrown hero took home the honours. Oh, another engine explosion for Mark Sheehan, pushing out a head gasket again, I think, but it doesn't matter. The crew walk away, there's high fives. In round 3, Nitro Max lived up to its name in what would become one of the greatest nights in Australian drag racing history. Oh, both cars moving around ever so slightly. And how's that? Wow, Damien Harris says, I'll take your 53 and I'll match you. That right there is the quickest side-by-side top fuel pass we have ever seen in this country. And with that, we move on to Willowbank, the first time this season that we've been here, and that is what these races are racing for, that gold Christmas tree. It really is a beautiful trophy, and it represents everything that this 400 Thunder series is about. We are going to kick it off with the one and only qualifying session of Top Fuel here this afternoon. It is a beautiful day at Willowbank. As you can see, the sun is shining, but what is a fairly unique problem here at Willowbank is that the sun is shining exactly where you don't want it to be, right down the other end of the racetrack, basically straight into the drivers' faces here. The afternoon session is always the toughest for a driver because you're driving straight into it, and for these guys looking to go over 500 kilometres per hour with no vision, it's definitely a challenge. We've got Corey McLenithan on track, first time back since the East Coast Nationals back in Sydney. He's driving for Sando Rapasada and the Rapasada Autosport team this weekend, and there is Wayne Newby, the man who's trying to make up some ground in the points chase this weekend. He is certainly up there with a shot. Him and his teammate Damien Harris are battling it out. It really is a battle of the heavyweights when it comes to this Top Fuel points chase. And this is going to be a great, great matchup. Willowbank is a track that is renowned for holding big performances. We've seen some of the quickest runs in this country, anywhere in the world, on this 400-metre drag strip right now. We are just about set for a start here in the one and only qualifying session for Top Fuel here today. Good run from both sides of the racetrack. Newby goes quiet. And how's that for Corey McLenithan? First time back in a car on Australian soil for quite some time, and he goes 465. That's a very, very good feeling out. A good grounding pass there for Corey McLenithan. I think he's going to be very happy with that. His tuner, Lee Beard, who's come out from the United States of America with him, will also be very happy with that. Looking at Wayne Newby, it looks like the pipes just went a little bit wet, maybe a little bit of tyre shake early on in the run. He chose not to drive through it. And that 465 was an early shut-off as well for Corey McLenithan. That team is looking very, very sharp here this weekend. We move on to our four-time national champion in this class, Darren Morgan, the AEG Power Tools car out of Mildura. And he will be taking on Peter Giberis, the Premier Racing Top Fuel dragster. Still a relative newcomer to this class, has been racing Top Fuel for probably around about 2 years now, 2.5 years, but this team has made a huge impression in the short time that they have been on the Australian drag strip. Oh, a little bit of a problem backing up there. These cars are not the easiest things to reverse. Peter Giberis, as you can see, having a fair bit of input into the steering, and the last thing you want to do is really throw that steering wheel around. They run a lot of positive camber in these front ends, and what that does is make them easy to drive in a straight line going forward very quickly. It makes them very, very hard to reverse. But Peter Giberis is a driver who's really come into his own in the last couple of years in Top Fuel. Interesting to see that he doesn't have a tinted visor on here for this run this afternoon. Will that play into Darren Morgan's hands? Well, it is only a qualifying session, so it's not a head-to-head race or a head-to-head matchup, so to speak. But that being said, these drivers still want to go from A to B as quickly as they possibly can. Crew chief for Peter Giberis gives the nod to Ben Patterson, the crew chief for Darren Morgan. one of the youngest crew chiefs in the game. Nitro really is a young man's game these days. And we are set for a start. Red light for Peter Gibberius there. It doesn't matter. It is only qualifying. Looks like the candles went out early, and it was an ugly run for Darren Morgan. The pipes went very, very wet early on, a 5.05. It's still a decent run, not quite in the 4-second zone. The speed way down on where we expect that car to be. But let's have a look at the replay. I think the sun may have had a big factor in this. I think Peter Gibberius took a bit of a shot at the tree there because he probably couldn't see it all that well. Red light doesn't matter in qualifying. It wasn't a representative run anyway, so really there's not a lot to be lost out of that. But looking at Darren Morgan's car there, you can see at half track, lots of fluffy white stuff coming out of the exhaust pipes. That's raw fuel that's not being burnt inside that engine. It means it's sapping horsepower from that car. That explains exactly why it was only a 5.05 out of Darren Morgan. And this is going to be the really telling shot right there. You can see all that raw fuel just pumping out of those cylinders, and that's going to make it very, very hard to make horsepower. He's lucky he didn't actually kick a rod out or maybe even do some more damage to that car. So they'll take it back to the pits, get it ready for the first round of racing later on this afternoon. And then we move on to our reigning national champion. That is Damien Harris in the Rapisada Autosport car, tuned by young Santo Rapisada Jr., one of the brightest minds in the business when it comes to nitro engines these days, alongside his brother Santino. And of course, when you're talking young crew chiefs, you've got Ben Patterson as well. You've got James Rowland from over in WA, who's had a lot to do with nitro cars. There are so many good, sharp young minds that are tuning these nitro cars these days. It's great to see some new thinking and some new ideas really coming into the sport. Seemed like a pretty clean, sharp launch for Damien Harris there. The 60-foot time looked pretty good, but he shut the car off early. Not sure what the story was. Only a 7.98 up on the board, so that's actually going to put him in the third qualifying position as far as that goes. Let's have a look at the replay. It left fairly nicely, maybe a little bit of tyre shake where the tyre doesn't get a clean transition to the racetrack. And yeah, right there, the tyres go up into a little bit of tyre smoke, and Damien Harris has got enough experience to know that he needs to get off the throttle to stop that thing hurting itself. He'll roll it on through. He'll start from third in the qualifying list this afternoon. Let's have a look at that qualifying list. And the American Corey McLenathan will lead us into racing here. He won back in Sydney at the East Coast Nationals. Can he win again here in Queensland at Willowbank Raceway? We'll find out right after the break. Welcome back to Willowbank Raceway. Well, the sun is going down, the temperatures are cooling off, the teams are warming up the cars, and we are just about set for a start with racing. Let's catch up with Darren Morgan to find out how he attacks these changing conditions.
Darren, the big observation between qualifying and now is how much the conditions are changing. How do you guys account for that in your setup?
It's probably easier now than what it was before. Like, the track was over 130, and that's always a test. So now that's cooled down a little bit, we can compare it to other runs we've done before, because we haven't raced in those conditions for, well, we haven't raced for a long time, but in those conditions for a long time. So this should be a little easier, and hopefully we'll go from A to B without turning the tyres.
First round of racing is set for a start here in Top Fuel. Now, this is a little bit different to the way that we usually run Top Fuel. It is the 3-round format, the same as what we saw over in Perth at the Nitro Max event a few weeks ago. Basically, our 2 quickest winners will go through to the A final. Our 3rd and 4th quickest winners would usually go through to the B final, but as we won't have 4 winners because we've only got 5 cars here this weekend, the B final will be made up of the 3rd winning car and also the quickest loser out of our 3 first-round pairs. So there's a lot to race for. Even though we will have a solo pass later on in this round, there's still a lot to race for. You don't automatically go into that A final on the back of a win. It is Darren Morgan on the far side of the racetrack and Wayne Newby on this side. Little fist pump into the cockpit there from Santino Rapisada to his driver Wayne Newby. Very good conditions. Big crowd in the house here at Willowbank. We're set for a start. Huge hole shot for Wayne Newby. He's got this run won, and he pushes out a head gasket by the look of it at the other end of the racetrack, but that's a huge run. That's a 4:53 with a 529.89 kilometres per hour. That right there is the quickest run on Australian soil by an Australian top fuel driver. Man, that is a sensational run from Wayne Newby and that Rapisada Autosport team. Darren Morgan was straight up in tyre smoke. You can see the hands go on the head for the crew there, and that is not the way they want to end their night. And the interesting thing was that he didn't pedal it to try and get it into the B final either. But looking at Newby, that was a sensational run. Maybe pushed out a head gasket at the top end of the racetrack, but I'll almost guarantee that that's enough to get him into the A final. With 2 pairs left to go, I would say that run will be enough to get him into the A final here this evening.
No, that was pretty incredible. It's been coming for a while and everything clicked on that run. So real happy for Tino and Sano and Junior and the whole team. It's a team effort and it makes it all worthwhile.
And that just shows you what the conditions are like here at Willowbank here this evening. The track is sensational. The air conditions are very, very good. We've got very capable racers and very capable crews on every single one of these cars. This is going to be a sensational session, I'll tell you right now. Damien Harris, reigning national champ, is on the line. He's taking on, well, the relative newcomer, Peter Giberis in the Premier Hire Top Fuel Dragster. But there's a lot of experience in that crew, and he has really started to come around as far as a driver goes. He's getting used to pedaling that car, getting it from A to B. That's what you need to do. But for Damien Harris, it's all about points consolidation here. He wants to get to that A final. He wants to go down the racetrack. That's what it's all about, winning the race, and the time is important as well. Oh, we had a race on our hands till half track. It looked like the yellow top fuel car made a big move towards the centre line, and Damien Harris, a 4.702. Now, that could leave the door open a little bit here for Corey McLenithan. If he runs quicker, he will take that spot in the A final. But have a look at the replay here, and this just shows you what experience gives you. Both cars make big moves at half track. The difference is Harris drove through it, gets that thing to the finish line. Peter Giberis decides discretion is the better part of valor there, backs off the throttle and gives the race away.
Yeah, no, the Rapisada boys have done a great job this weekend so far. So our car spun the tyres quite hard in that lap, so we were hoping for a better number than a 74, but it's enough to get us to the final.
Well, you heard it from Damien Harris. They were shooting for a better number than that. It was blowing the tyres off at the top end of the racetrack. Fortunately, it didn't go into full-blown tyre smoke. But this man is currently sitting in the box seat. He's got the data from 2 team cars. Oh, I'll tell you what, though, those back 2 cylinders on that right-hand side are running very, very lean. You can see the flame on idle, which is very, very unusual for a top fuel dragster. It's that hot, it's actually glowing the exhaust pipe red there. That is so hot, and I would hope that that's not going to hurt this performance for Corey McLenithan, because this car has been running so well all weekend so far. Oh, big move at half track. Huge move, and that's the experience of a 25-year veteran of top fuel racing right there. 497 is the number. It's not good enough to get into the A final. The car was on an absolute mission, though. Look how hard that car launched to half track. Very, very good conditions. And you can see just started turning the tyres ever so slightly. And Corey McLenithan thought, no, you know what? I'm going to get out of the throttle on this one and let it roll on through. He'll be in the B final, and he will be taking on Peter Giberis in the Premier Hire car. And the A final is the battle of the teammates. It will be Wayne Newby taking on Damien Harris. That is going to be a massive matchup. Top Fuel B final time now, and this is the Santos Super 3 Extreme Drag Race. And for Corey McLenithan, although it's not the best case scenario for him, he finds himself in the B final here. I'm sure he'd much rather be in the A final. It's a great result for Santo Rapisada and that team, because both of their team cars are in the A final. The third car is in the B final. It's just about the best that they could hope for this weekend. And you've got to remember, this whole weekend is about commemorating Louis Rapisada. Of course, Santo Rapisada, the team patriarch. His son, unfortunately, passed away here at Willowbank Raceway in an accident. He's always remembered whenever we come back here. And this event is all about honouring his legacy. And you have a look at the other side of the racetrack. Top Fuel is all about newcomers coming into the sport, and Peter Giberis is certainly that. He's behind the wheel of one of the most potent race cars on the planet. 10,000 horsepower sitting 2 feet behind his head. It is an incredible experience from 0 to 100 kilometres per hour in 0.8 of a second. That puts it into perspective just how quick these cars are. You need to be on top of your game. Huge hole shot to the American. And the American's out in front. Oh, a big fireball, though, and really, really close to the wall for Peter Giberis. He needs to pull that thing back into the centre of the lane. Whoa, that was so close. I wouldn't be even surprised to see a little bit of the paint from the wall on the rear tyre of Peter Giberis' car there. You can see a lot of fire on board for Corey McLenithan. They say the run is only part of the fun. You get it past the finish line, and then you got to get these things stopped. And when they're on fire, it's a lot harder to get it stopped. Corey McLennan says, you know what, this is hot. I'm getting on out of here. And the safety crew will really need to get on top of that one. That was a big, big boomer for Corey McLennan. Let's have a look at exactly what happened. It was a massive hole shot off the starting line for Corey McLennan. 0.26 on the tree. That's almost psychic in a top fuel dragster. In comparison, Peter Giberis was 0.129, but it was around about here. It started mixing up the cylinders ever so slightly for Corey McLenithan, and that's a big, big fire. As soon as the fuel and oil gets onto the headers, big fireball. Looks more like a jet dragster than a top fuel dragster. And the belt came off it as well by the look of it, but Peter Giberis in the braking area got so close to the wall. The last thing you want to do is yank on that steering wheel and try and get it back across, but he did a good job there, and Corey McLenithan, man oh man, he rode that one out. It's the A final now for Santo Rapisada and the Santos Extreme 3 drag race. And this is a great scenario for this team. 2 cars in the final round. They're currently 1 and 2 in the championship points. This has been a fantastic season so far for the Santo Rapisada team, and they're looking to extend that lead. It's Wayne Newby closest to camera. He's taking on Damien Harris on the far side of the racetrack. And although these are team cars, they do run as individual efforts. They do compare data, they do share tuning ideas and things like that. But as far as the teams go, they are run as separate entities. So there's no team orders here. It's all about who can get to the finish line first, who can get there quickest. And I guarantee you, there'll still be smiles and handshakes at the other end of the racetrack, but this is for bragging rights within the team. Oh, clean greens on both sides of the racetrack. But Damien Harris gets a top fuel dragster about as sideways as you would ever want to try. I don't think he got across the centre line. It doesn't matter anyway because Wayne Newby takes the win. It's a 6.1 second pass, way off what we would have expected. He was second off the start line. Harris had him on the tree. Let's have a look at the replay though. Gets about 100 metres out off the start line and just blazes the rear tyres. Looks like they tried to bring the clutch in a little bit too early, and lots of tyre smoke was the result. For Wayne Newby, he knew that his teammate was going to be coming for him. He even pedalled the car a little bit just to try and get the momentum, trying to get that car across the finish line first, and he did it.
Yeah, no, first run in top fuel, I'm really excited. The boys have worked really hard, the car ran good. We went for it in the final, we got the win, but it wasn't what we were trying for, but we'll come back tomorrow and see if we can do it all again.
Big back-to-back on a very special weekend for the team. I mean, it is the Santos Super 3 after all.
Yeah, I'd love to go back-to-back this weekend, especially to win Santo's own race. I just want a big shout out to one of our crew guys, Michael. He lost a finger here yesterday and he's been in hospital, and I've dedicated this win to him.
Welcome back to Willowbank Raceway. This is what we saw last night. The quickest run by an Australian on Australian soil. Incredible pass from Wayne Newby, 4:53. We're going to see if he can back it up very, very shortly because we are moving into day 2 of the Santos Super 3 Extreme Drag Race here at Willowbank Raceway. And it is the one and only qualifying session. Same format as we saw from yesterday. One qualifying session, that seeds the field, and then we move straight into racing. First matchup, it is Peter Giberis taking on Darren Morgan. And Morgan is going to be looking to avenge last night. Did not make either the A final or the B final. Went straight up in tyre smoke at the hit of the throttle. Made a relatively good pass in qualifying yesterday, a 5:05, but it was very, very ugly towards the top end of the racetrack. And Peter Giberis, that car has been an absolute bullet on the front half of the racetrack. But at the top end, it's just been moving around a lot. We saw him get really, really close to the wall in the B final last night, and he'll be looking to just try and get this thing to the finish line under power. You can see the clouds are really starting to close in here at Willowbank Raceway. Hopefully it doesn't affect any racing, because once that wet stuff starts falling from the sky, that means no more racing. It is a very, very finely prepared track, finely tuned track, and once the water gets on it, that's no good. So let's hope we can get this in here this evening. Up in tyre smoke again for Darren Morgan, and straight to the finish line for Peter Gibberis, and a 465. That's the way to bounce back from his troubles from yesterday. 007 on the Christmas tree. That's just a bad job of red lighting right there for Peter Gibberis. He did a sensational reaction time off the start line, and a 465. That is a big, big step in the right direction for that team. Looking at Darren Morgan, again, straight up in tyre smoke. That's not what that team would have wanted. You can see the tyres went very tall, very skinny, very quickly, and a lot of smoke coming off those rear tyres, and that's not the way to go quick on this Willowbank 400-metre racetrack. But Peter Gibberis, I tip my hat to them. They're doing a sensational job this weekend.
Yeah, that was our personal best, yeah, 465. Before that was a 468, so yeah, really good actually, yeah.
He's a fairly laid-back guy, Peter Gibberis, but he had a big smile on his face there, and why wouldn't he? A 465, that's the way to kick off your campaign here on the second day of racing at the Santos Super 3 Extreme Drag Race here at Willowbank. Next matchup, it is Wayne Newby taking on Corey McLenithan, and Newby has been performing flawlessly this week, and we saw that 453 out of him last night. He won the event last night. He gained a bag of points on his teammate, Damien Harris, so it's been a good weekend for that team so far. And for Corey McLenithan on this side of the racetrack, he made it to the B final. He won the B final, but did a lot of engine damage to that car last night. A big, big flame out. Not the way you want to win, not the way you want to take home any trophy, but hey, that's the way it goes sometimes. You play with nitro, sometimes you're going to get burnt. The respective crew chiefs are ready. You see Lee Beard give his driver Corey McLenithan the wave into stage. And this is something that Corey has done thousands of times before, and nothing still prepares you for the shock of launching a fuel car. Wayne Newby, that car moving around a bunch on the top end of the racetrack, but he kept his foot into it, and clean as a whistle, a 457, 494 kilometres per hour. That is a sensational run for Wayne Newby. He has got to be happy with that. He was the #1 qualifier last night. At the moment, it's looking very, very good for him. Again, 457. Given the conditions we've got under a fair bit of cloud cover here at Willowbank, that is a booming run from him. Corey McLenithan looked like they might have just tried to wind the clutch in a little bit too early, went straight up in a wisp of tyre smoke at around about 200 metres down the racetrack, and that's all it took. But for Wayne Newby, great run. This is how quick it all happens in a top fuel cockpit, on the throttle, off the throttle, and that's it.
We did exactly what we wanted to do. We ran another 50. The car was a bit messy on that run. It was moving around a fair bit, but we'll just work on that and we'll go out for the next round.
Damien Harris rolling up to line for his one and only qualifying shot here. Current points leader, reigning national champion, pretty experienced competitor, and he's driving one of the baddest top fuel cars in the land. This car tuned by Santo Raposada Jr. Set for a start here. On a solo pass, 457 is the number he's looking to beat. It's going to go close. He kicked the blower belt off a little bit before the finish line, and it's not quick enough to take the #1 spot. 470. I tell you what, though, he's going deep into the braking area here, almost into the sand. Did a good job to pull that car up. 470, though, that will be good enough to put him into the #3 spot for qualifying here on the second day. It looked like it was dropping a cylinder at the top end of the racetrack. Kicked the blower belt off it pretty early on as well, but this is the way that they will head into racing. Wayne Newby with that 457, a sensational run. He qualifies #1. Peter Gibberis in second. Damien Harris, Corey McLenithan and Darren Morgan rounding out the 5. Well, we've seen this weather closing in all afternoon here at Willowbank Raceway, and unfortunately the cars are in the lanes ready to go, but the heavens have opened here at Willowbank, and that means that we have no more racing here tonight. Night 2 has been washed out from the Santos Super 3 Extreme Drag Race. That is a shame, but here are the points for Top Fuel coming out of this event, and the story is Rapasada. Damien Harris with a 30-point lead over his teammate Wayne Newby. Darren Morgan in third, Mark Sheehan, the West Aussie, in fourth. Corey McLenithan, the American, will round out the top 5. Well, on next week's show, we've got all the action from Pro Alcohol from this event here at Willowbank Raceway. Let me tell you, this one is huge. You don't want to miss it. We'll see you next week here on 400 Thunder.